This is Dick Whitman bringing you the weather. Let me tell you, I'm happy to say there's nothing but blue skies coming your way. There's nothing but blue skies coming your way. I'm happy to say there's nothing but blue skies coming your way. Blue skies coming your way. Blue skies coming your way. This is weather. Weather. This is weather. Weather. This is weather. Weather. This is weather. Weather. This is Dick Whitman bringing you the weather.
At the dough. At the dough. At the dough. Always stacking bread. Always stacking bread. Always stacking bread. Always stacking bread.
This is Dick Whitman bringing you the weather. This is Dick Whitman bringing you the weather. Let me tell you, I'm happy to say there's nothing but blue skies coming your way.
It is Saturday, March 22nd. You are watching You Don't Watch Sports right here on the Feo Grande YouTube network. I am Bill Smith, and I am joined as always by the man, the myth, the legend, Feo Grande himself, Omari Ellis. Omari, how was your sports week?
It was fun. It was eventful, shocking, and enticing for next week.
All right, we're going to talk about a bunch of things because we cover 3 topics here on You Don't Watch Sports, just to sprinkle a little bit of sports information into your casual conversation as we are your guiding light through the sea that is sports talk. Topic number 1, Omari, it is baseball time. We have the season kicking off on Thursday, March 27th. I mean, technically, we had a special Tokyo series between the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Chicago Cubs that were real official games of the season, but they happened a few days ago, and then we're waiting about a full week and a half to get to the true beginning of the season here in teams' home stadiums.
I love that it was a Tokyo thing involving the Dodgers. It's too appropriate.
Well, and the Cubs also have multiple Japanese players too. So there were several Japanese representatives.
I thought they just needed a team to beat up on.
The Dodgers did end up beating up, but and that's not all that has started MLB related. As I referenced last week, I am venturing into the fantasy world. Fantasy based, yes. Most people join into fantasy football. I'm not a big football head. Maybe that'll creep in later on in the calendar year. But for now, it is fantasy baseball, and I have made my draft. Right. And the official draft has happened, and I wanted to run through it with you a little bit. First, let's go through what the start of the draft looked like. As we talked about last week, I was pick 7 in a snake draft rotation, so I was just kind of always stuck in the middle there with about the same amount of picks in between each of my turns. So I was kind of locked into a similar drafting pattern here. But pick number one, to friend of the channel, Hubble's Stars, went with obvious choice Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah.
Then Jose Ramirez, third baseman from Cleveland. Aaron Judge, center fielder from the New York Yankees. Bobby Witt Jr., Juan Soto Jr., Vladimir Guerrero Jr. My pick came up. I chose Mookie Betts, the shortstop for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Then we had Tarek Skubal for the Detroit Tigers, starting pitcher Kyle Tucker, and then Paul Skeens, pitcher from the Pittsburgh Pirates. Very expected, typical top 10 there. Not many surprises to go on. Let's just go into my team from then on. My second round draft pick, I chose Freddie Freeman from the Los Angeles Dodgers. I'm not trying to be a Dodgers head here, but so what my strategy ended up being going in was my number one pick. I was choosing the most talented person at the top of the draft board.
Let's go.
To start things off. Then from there, I was going to focus on, and this was advised against. I was advised against this from multiple fantasy participants, but I couldn't help but feel like it was the route to go. I focused on the positions that lacked depth.
Okay.
I got a lot of advice I heard was to just continue to draft the most talented players. Like you'll end up working out a team
out of whatever you get
at the end of the day, but get the most talented players at the top of the board. And I decided that there were a few positions there that looked like they lacked a lot of depth, like first base, third base, catcher, second base, basically the infield. I wanted to solidify the infield. It looked like to me, outfield and starting pitching. It was that
There's
that
a lot
second
that you
tier
can get.
chunk was a lot of guys. So I ended up focusing on that. Second round, I really wanted to lock in my first baseman because that was few and far in the league. And Freddie Freeman just happened to be the top one on that list. Not trying to be a Dodger head here. Round 3, I'm looking at second basemen. So now I'm drafting Marcus Semien from the Texas Rangers, second baseman. A lot of pop potential, good home run numbers. Round 4, I'm specifically looking for third baseman, and I find Austin Riley, a Atlanta Brave third baseman who has hit 40 plus home runs in his career so far. So I'm liking my team already, and I'm glad I'm starting to diversify. My first 2 picks going to the Dodgers, I was like, oh God, what's about to happen here? Round 5 now, I have my entire first, second, short, and third locked. I really want to get my catcher. A lot of people are saying, don't worry about catcher, blah, 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 blah. Those are the people who never get the top 2 catchers in the league. Though, then you don't have to worry. If you don't get the top 2 catchers in the league, then you don't have to worry about catcher because a lot of those guys are the same.
Yeah.
But if you were to get those top 2 catchers in the league, it's a different story.
Hey, I think similarly about kickers in fantasy football.
Okay.
Fifth round always went to that Baltimore kicker because of his skills on the field. But yes.
So I ended up going with catcher. The top catcher on the board at the point of me drafting is Will Smith from the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Wow, the double whammy.
The double whammy. All right. Round 6 has come, and I decide I want to lock in my one ace, my one top tier. I'm glancing over at the starting pitcher board, and I'm like, okay, there's still a couple of high point potential starting pitchers on like premium
Yeah.
A tier, S tier starting pitchers on the board that if I don't choose one now, they're probably not going to be there when
When
it
the
comes
next
back
round
around.
comes around.
And I'll be down, I'll be moving from S tier to A tier. So let me go ahead and grab Max Fried, a new to the New York Yankees this year.
Where was he before? I feel like I heard that.
He was an Atlanta Brave.
Okay.
So he is a starting pitcher that is going to be in that potential 400 point realm, which is going to be kind of an S tier level for me.
Oh.
Round 7, it's kind of me just hopping back and forth on, do I do pitching or do I do outfield? Looking at both boards as the picks are going down in front of me, and it still feels like outfield is just a lot of the same guy. So I end up going starting pitching, and I think there's about 3 guys at the top of the board that are pretty close to the same. My first homer pick of the draft, I draft Sonny Gray, starting pitcher for the St. Louis Cardinals. Pretty much our ace of our team. Middle high tier pitcher in the general draft. Round number 8. Okay, I've gotten 2 starting pitchers. I need to look at outfield. I draft. This is where I think we discussed, will I do undraftables? Do I have barriers? Do I have places I won't go? Round number 8, the first outfield member drafted to my team from the Chicago Cubs, Ian Happ. He was the best outfielder on the board when it came to me, and I didn't really think twice about it. He's a good player. He's going to get me good, consistent points. Ian Happ, Chicago Cubs. I will root for him individually in my own way. I'll figure out how that goes at some point. Round 9.
You want him to get good stats in a losing effort.
Round
That's how
9.
usually do it.
I want to get. I'm starting to get a little cocky. Just a little hair. I'm kind of feeling good about what I've drafted so far. Looking at some of the other teams and what they've been focusing on, I'm like,
I mean, you got to have at least one dude that's just there making the what the hell picks. Not saying that had to be you, but
Yeah,
with
we
12
had-
people, there's got to be one guy that doesn't think the way one should for fantasy.
there was one person who was pretty absent most of the draft, so he's just taking auto draft choices. And then there was one gentleman who actively had some sort of commitment and was trying to do it via mobile, but you could see in the draft room members screen, you could see him bouncing in and out, assuming signal, or maybe every time his phone closed, it technically like removed him from the draft room. So we had a couple of those where he ended up in auto draft situation because of that. So I start playing, and I'm looking at. I really like a young man out of Cincinnati. He's not that much of a young man anymore. I think he might be going into his 4th year, 3rd year. Hunter Green, really hard throwing fireball pitcher who has came into the league with tremendous stuff, lack of control. And he has been steadily improving every single year. I'm thinking that this is my pick that I'm placing a bet on, kind of.
Gotcha.
He could be middle of the road, or he could get himself into an S tier pitcher. Kind of thing. Next round, we'll do. This might be the last one because we have 20 rounds to cover, and it starts to just go into depth at some point. Round number 10, my second homer choice, outfielder Alec Burleson from the St. Louis Cardinals. I was kind of surprised he was never going to be on my radar, but he is a really solid player, and he doesn't strike out. And I think that's a key component for fantasy baseball, is he makes contact a lot. So he was kind of sneaky, projected to make more points than I had on my radar for him. So I went ahead and drafted him. And then after that, it's a bunch of pitchers, finishing off my outfield, and then I'm drafting my bench. But I'm looking forward to it at this point. My feedback that I've gotten back is that a lot of members of the league think that I've got a pretty solid team, maybe a top 14
I
in the
mean,
league.
I've known you for quite a minute now. And baseball has always been a heavily associated thing with you. So baseball knowledge, like, yeah, we talk about stuff on here. I talk more about football, more often or something. But my knowledge of football is not on your baseball knowledge level. So I could see you still, despite not being your typical fantasy person, and even with you going with your own philosophy of how to do it, where you're like, I'm going low depth first and then coming in to the later things. I feel like you couldn't end up with a bad team. Like, you're going to end up with a solid team because of your baseball knowledge. So I'm
Nice,
looking
I
forward to
appreciate
seeing
that.
how you do this season.
Aren't we all? Aren't we all? Real quick, we got to do our way too early crazy prediction here. I've got a visual reference in front of you, which would be the Athletics most recent preseason power rankings list.
Why do we let one team decide who the power rankings are for everybody else?
Well, who do you think? Who do you think it's going to be?
Well,
World Series champions.
it's very hard to pick against the LA Dodgers, the reigning defending undisputeds, who just added like 5 more Japanese players to the team or whatever it was over the offseason. So I'm gonna say Dodgers. That's an NL team, correct?
Yeah, the interesting thing about these power rankings is the first 5 teams are National League teams.
Okay.
So in theory, you can only pick one of those. If you're creating your World Series matchup, only one of those is going to even make it to the World Series.
I don't see a reason to pick anybody other than the Dodgers from a logical standpoint. Obviously, from a heart standpoint, you know where that goes. But I think the other side, the AFC, I almost said AFC, the AL, they're 6th this year? Ew. I'm going to say... Wait, who was the losers last year for the series?
Yankees.
It was the Yankees, so we already did LA, New York.
Yep. Does that mean LA's got to beat Boston now?
I was thinking between New York and Boston. I'm gonna say LA beats Boston. Yeah,
It's a good pick. I think that's a smart baseball pick.
I feel like one of these other top 4 though is gonna get upset in the playoffs by a wild card St. Louis Cardinals team before we make our exit out of the playoffs.
I think let's. I'm gonna go with LA repeats World Series champions over the Baltimore Orioles.
Okay. I'm a bird.
Omari, you chose Boston. Speaking of Boston, let's move on to topic number 2. A little bit of news came out either today or very recently. The Boston Celtics have been sold for a record-breaking $6.1 billion.
Indeed, according to ESPN's Shams Charania, that is exactly what happened. It surpasses the $6.05 billion that the Washington Commanders went for, which, yeah, if I'm going to say what team sells for more, if you're trying to buy my team after the Commanders of all teams sold for 6.05 and I'm the Boston Celtics, look...
It is the NFL.
I am what people call a hater of all Boston teams. Well, take the air quote off. I'm a hater of Boston teams, but I can still admit that teams are good and stats is stats. This is one of, if not the
That
winningest
is
team in NBA
stats.
history. And you're going to try to buy this for less than the Washington Commanders? Get the f out of here. So, of course, you had to pay the $6.1 billion. I was unaware because I don't pay a lot of attention to Celtics box office, or back office, rather. I thought they were like one of those Cubs, Packers, whatever teams that, you know, or Steelers, where it's like, this has been in this family for generations and we're not going to get rid of it because, you know, that's stupid. It's the Boston Celtics. But it was already a conglomerate that took a little bit of the shock off of it. But when I was alluding to shock earlier, yeah, generally successful teams don't sell the team because they're successes. It's usually like middle of the pack teams, because the truly terrible teams are truly terrible on purpose because the city's just loyal enough to pay and that's all they care about.
Yeah. When we were talking about this off camera, it made me remember this article that I read, I believe Thursday.
All right. Which was when the sale went down, I believe.
Okay. Which completely made me re-examine everything I thought I knew as a fan. Particularly during the COVID fight against the players' unions by MLB and NFL and MLB as they were restructuring the deals of what this would look like coming back to the NFL to play and all of this. There was a lot of talk of ownership like losing money potentially because there's not enough fans in the stands, and there was a lot of responsive talk of just like, don't give us that, you guys are millionaires, billionaires, you could, like, these teams make money, like there's the merchandise, there's the TV deals, whether or not you have fans in the stands kind of thing. And that's just kind of just always been an assumed thing until a writer for the Pittsburgh sports media, I believe their newspaper in Pittsburgh, after multiple seasons in a row of the Pittsburgh Pirates not making any large moves in free agency and being difficult when it comes to their own team who are reaching free agency, like players that need extensions and things like that.
Yeah, they were very heavily accused of being one of those teams that's just sitting there being happy with being bad because loyal fan base.
This journalist decided that he had had enough, and he has spent the entire offseason doing an investigative journalism piece where he has gone through multiple interviews and investigative journalism with multiple bankers involved with the Pittsburgh Pirates, city and county government officials involved in deals and contracts and licenses, people through Major League Baseball associated with like being intermediaries between individual teams to the bigger MLB umbrella of it all, current and former team employees, as well as retrieving a couple of internal books during the process, and has come to find out at the end of the day that the Pittsburgh Pirates are in massive debt. They have multiple loans out to multiple banks of large sums of money. They are now in their third, possibly fourth year in a row of losing multiple millions of dollars in order to run a Major League Baseball team. And yes, this is because you said early when we were off camera, you were like, why? How could you possibly want to sell the Boston Celtics? They're a money factory. And I was like, maybe it's a stressful job. And yes, the Pittsburgh Pirates are not the Boston Celtics by any means. But they are a historic franchise. As a baseball fan, anytime you have the conversation of what is the best game day experience, Pittsburgh's stadium and going and seeing a Pirates game is always at the top of the list. Yeah. I've never personally experienced it, but apparently it has a beautiful park, beautiful facilities. It's like connection through the city, its integration into the city is very nice, and all of that kind of stuff. Like, it's usually the conversation is like, if you remove the nostalgia factor of Fenway, Wrigley, and Yankee Stadium, the best ballpark to go visit is PNC Park in Pittsburgh. Despite all of that, and maybe due to their losing ways in many regards, a fan could argue, they are actually losing money
for years,
and it's made me question everything about a fandom, and is like me assuming that they are just money printing machines, and maybe that's the case when you look at the dollar value of a team being sold or purchased.
Yeah.
But like the day-to-day operations of owning that giant chunk of land and that giant building and maintaining and operating it, as well as employing hundreds of people, as well as 30 of them being millionaire divas, not to generalize professional athletics.
You're not wrong.
But yeah, is this a harder job than I'm giving it? And I don't want to give them too much credit, obviously, because there's obviously millionaires and billionaires running specific teams.
Like many jobs for people who are richer than us, yes, it is a harder job than we feel because, we feel like they're making so much money they couldn't have nearly as much stress. But, like a terrible person once said, more money, more problems. That said, when you talk about like the owners, I feel like the Pittsburgh Pirates, like you said, they're losing money each year and getting the debt. And I think that's their losing ways finally catching up with them, though they appear to be on the bounce back. Oh, no, that's a different P. Never mind. The yellow P is Pittsburgh, right?
Correct.
Okay. The red P is what, Philly?
Philly.
Okay. Never mind. They're not on the bounce back. They're still pretty bad. In the bottom tier of, in the bottom 10 of the MLB.
They're above...
by 2 spots. It's all pretty much the same at that point. Also, historically talking about, when we're talking about baseball teams, one team's historically done a lot better than the other. So, as far as I'm concerned, this team down here with the bird, you can't see my finger because it's getting blue screened out, but damn it, you know what I'm talking about. We got a better fan base that comes in. And, in my opinion, the best stadium experience I've ever had at an MLB baseball game. So,
How many others have you had?
I may have had one other with like Tampa or something. But that doesn't matter. Bottom line is the Cardinals.
Tampa's facility has been known to be garbage if you went to a Rays game. Let's talk about a different kind of arena experience, Omari. The best arena experience in the UFL. That's right. I'm talking about your hat.
That's right. The St. Louis Battlehawks, in which, yes, definitely the best. Some people claim they like their little beer snake over there in DC, but we got more than a beer
It's
snake.
a fucking beer snake. What?
Yeah, we got more than a beer snake. We have actual
Anybody who's in
fans
an
the
open air
stands.
stadium, I could hear their argument of potentially like
Yeah.
it's because you're in an open air stadium and the dome.
We
isn't
actually have fans there, though,
But
that
we
are
have
enjoying
fans
the
there.
games.
Yes.
We carry the league with attendance. Anyway, the St. Louis Battlehawks are about to be back in action yet again this year because it is time in this upcoming week for the UFL return.
It's time. It's time. It's Battlehawks time.
Scrawl. Anyway, call it law. So
Caw.
yeah, so this
So what are you
Thursday,
thinking?
March 28th, they kick off the league on Fox in Houston, Texas, against the Houston Roughnecks, longtime rivals in this league. While on the 29th, you got the San Antonio Rocks, or the Brahmas, if you will, the Rocks team against the Arlington Renegades, who 2 seasons ago won the XFL championship, but last season was at the bottom of the XFL division. On the other side, March 30th, you have 2 games next Saturday, or no, next Saturday is the 29th. Next Sunday. Yes, next Sunday. Well, on ESPN, we have 2 games. The Panthers, who had the best kicker in the league last year, who got himself a Detroit Lions contract, I'm pretty sure, last season in the NFL, and you saw what the Detroit Lions went on to do. Well, they got their best weapon, but they're still around. The Panthers, they're going up against last year's one of the worst teams statistically in almost every category. It's kind of crazy. Least yards, least per game average, less rushing average, less rushing TDs. They just weren't good. The Memphis Showboats. We'll see what changes they made to make them better. The Birmingham Stallions, last year's winners, go against the Beer Snake Defenders on Sunday as well. We'll see how that goes. Birmingham Stallions only lost 1 game last season. They were pretty fucking strong. But you know,
I'm
Battlehawks-
seeing via fantasypoints.com, I have power rankings Birmingham Stallions. They have set to be number 1.
Yeah, they're a very strong team. They were the champions of the UFL or the USFL the year before the UFL started. So unlike the Renegades, they just kept on running. Meanwhile, I'm not sure about a lot of the changes. I will say something that puts me in a slightly less optimistic mood about the Battlehawks. We don't have our quarterback anymore, AJ McCarron. At least I don't believe we do. However, we are entering the season with 5 players who earned all UFL honors in 2024, as well as the 2024 Offensive Player of the Year, Hakeem Butler. He comes back. And our Special Teams Player of the Year for last year, Chris Garrett. 29 players are returning from the squad, including 17 that are entering their second season in St. Louis, and 14 veterans for the league back for their 3rd year. We got 3 quarterbacks, 3 running backs, 7 receivers, 2 tight ends, 9 offensive linemen, 6 defensive linemen, 8 linebackers, 9 defensive backs, and 3 specialty players. However, we do have 1 player on injured reserve, but as they're not really listing his name, I'm hoping him a good recovery, and I'm hoping it's not too big a blow to our skill.
Looks like just confirming AJ McCarron was released during the offseason, and looks like there is a battle for kind of a 2-headed monster at the quarterback position. We have Manny Wilkins, who is a hyper aggressive running threat.
Okay.
As a quarterback, and then we have Max Dugan, who apparently was the quarterback of TCU in their national championship game run.
Max Dugan.
Or Duggan. Probably Duggan.
I don't care. That's a fucking name. Like, you know what I mean? That's a character in a movie.
All right,
It's
so we're ride or
Max
die
Dugan.
Battlehawks, right?
Oh yeah, always.
I mean, I'm seeing. So just to recap, what I'm referencing, it is the Birmingham Stallions number 1, Michigan Panthers number 2. They have the St. Louis Battlehawks at number 3. Cacaw. San Antonio Brahmas number 4, DC Defenders 5, Arlington Renegades 6, Memphis Showboats 7, Houston Roughnecks 8.
Yeah, we have never been a bad team in the XFL, though we have never won or UFL. Since the Battlehawks existed, they've always been one of the top teams, win-loss record-wise. And we're going to keep that. I have no doubt we're going to keep that going because we have the best home field advantage because we have the actual crowd there to make noise. And we're in a dome to amplify the noise. Caw! It's the motherfucking law.
If y'all wanna see us talk about other stuff, you can see it in a lot of different ways. Mondays we have mock draft where we talk wrestling, centered around our fantasy league where we've drafted WWE superstars and we earn points on their wins and losses. We are in the road to WrestleMania. Lots of points, lots of big points. Your boy is leading by like 24 points. Omari needs a big WrestleMania. Can John Cena and Rhea Ripley bring it to him?
I was still mean mugging after saying it's the law.
I didn't know if we had fallen into a frozen into a frozen zone.
I was too committed to the mean mug.
On Tuesdays we have this guy hasn't seen, where we share media back and forth. One guy has seen it, the other one hasn't. It's usually movies, sometimes it's documentaries, TV shows, anime, all kinds of things. One guy has seen, the other one hasn't. Stay tuned. Coming up next week we have what do we do? Unforgiven in honor of the late great Gene Hackman. Wednesdays, whenever they want, whatever they want, with friend of the channel, Super Jazz.
Super Jazz.
I think Big Bro Ibn should just slide in that spot, whatever we want. Because when is Super Jazz? I'm calling you out. Calling you out. I know you're busy. You're busy.
Yeah, it's a two-way street.
You're busy. Hey, it's calling you out, Super Jazz.
Two-way street.
I didn't even put on the glasses. We do the Macho Man voice. Yeah, that's it for you to watch sports, brother.
We'll see you next week. Adios, this bitch.